Good afternoon, mariners. This is your Tropical Atlantic Marine Weather Briefing for Thursday, February the 5th. It will be valid through Tuesday, February the 10th, and it's been prepared by the Tropical Analysis and Forecast Branch at the National Hurricane Center. We'll begin with the summary of hazards for the next 5 days. First, there's a gale warning in effect for the extreme western Atlantic tonight through early Friday, where peak seas may reach up to 11 feet. Second, another gale warning is in effect south of Bermuda from Friday night through Sunday, where peak seas could reach up to 30 feet. And finally, throughout the period, we're expecting a large swell event covering much of the western and central Atlantic, where peak seas will be in the range of 12 to 16 feet. Looking at the current conditions as of Thursday morning, the main story is a developing low pressure system off of the coast of the Carolinas with a powerful Arctic cold front extending southwest through the Gulf. Behind the cold front is a large area of strong winds, and in advance of the low pressure system, you can see both areas of developing gales, which will be the focus in the next several days. Looking quickly at the seas, in the Gulf, the seas are building behind the cold front, and in the far eastern extent of our waters, we have a large area of rough to very rough seas. Moving into Friday morning, you can see that the powerful low pressure system has intensified and the cold front has swept eastward across the Florida Peninsula, across the Bahamas, where gale conditions are expected tonight. And you can see a large area of strong to gale winds associated with this cold front. Further to the southwest in the far western Caribbean, you can see an area of fresh to strong winds at the tail end of the cold front. And looking at the seas, as the cold front progresses to the east, we have an area of building seas, rough to very rough in the northern portion of our waters just south of Bermuda. As we move into Saturday morning, the primary cold front has pushed to the east further into the west central Atlantic, extending southwest into the Caribbean, where we still have an area of fresh to strong winds in the western Caribbean. A reinforcing cold front has begun to push off of the east coast of the U.S. with an additional round of strong winds in the far western Atlantic, as well as potential gale winds just to the southwest of Bermuda. Looking at the seas, the combination of the initial cold front plus this reinforcing cold front coming from the northwest has led to an even larger area of rough seas and very rough seas to the south of Bermuda. By Sunday morning, a low pressure system to the north of our waters has really begun to intensify, including a cold front extending to the southwest down toward Cuba. Associated with this intensification of the low pressure system is a very, very large area of strong winds, including gale winds and even storm force winds to the north of our waters. Associated with this cold frontal passage, we continue to see a large area of rough seas, very rough seas, including peak seas up to 30 feet just to the south and east of Bermuda and the far northern extent of our waters. By Monday morning, as the low pressure system continues to lift to the north and east, the gale force conditions have begun to diminish in our waters. We still have a cold front extending to the southwest with some fresh to strong winds in the Caribbean and an area of fresh to strong winds in the far north and east portion of our waters. Looking at the seas, however, there remains a very large area of rough seas and very rough seas behind the cold front in the northwesterly flow. And finally, by Tuesday, the passage of yet another low pressure system to the north of our waters will lead to an area of fresh to strong winds just to the south and east of Bermuda, as well as another area of fresh to strong winds in the central Caribbean associated with a stalled frontal boundary. Looking at the seas, we continue to see a very large area of rough seas and very rough seas, and even though the peak seas have subsided somewhat, this is a very large swell event for the central and western Atlantic. To summarize, gale warnings are currently in effect for the western Atlantic. Gale conditions are expected to begin tonight near the northern Bahamas and lift to the northeast over the next several days, impacting our waters just to the south of Bermuda. A series of low pressure systems will bring not only gale force winds, but also very rough seas up to 30 feet for large portions of the Atlantic waters, with the highest seas confined to the extreme northern portions of our waters. We do expect conditions will begin to improve by early to mid next week. This concludes the Tropical Atlantic Marine Weather Briefing for February the 5th, 2026. The next briefing will be issued by 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, February the 8th. Stay safe, mariners, and as always, you can get the latest information at hurricanes.gov/marine.